Life can be cruel, it can be unpredictable, throwing challenges and hardships our way when we least expect them. For some, these challenges are mere bumps in the road, but for others, they become insurmountable mountains. It can snatch away your happiness, leaving you feeling empty and lost. The pain of such loss can be overwhelming, making it hard to see any light at the end of the tunnel. These experiences leave you with scars that never truly heal. They become a part of you, shaping who you are and how you view the world. The emotional wounds can be just as painful, if not more so, than physical ones. This is a story about one such life, scarred by abandonment and betrayal. It's a tale of resilience and the struggle to find a place in a world that seems indifferent. This is the story of Graham Hornigold, a man whose life was marked by a series of unfortunate events, starting from his earliest days. Graham's story begins with pain. From the moment he was born, life seemed to conspire against him. He was abandoned as a baby, left alone in a world that showed him no mercy. Abandoned as a baby, he was left alone, a tiny soul facing a giant, uncaring world. The early years of his life were a blur of foster homes and temporary shelters, a tiny soul facing a giant, uncaring world. He was tossed from one foster home to another, never finding a place to truly call home. He was tossed from one foster home to another. Each move brought new faces, new rules, and new challenges. The lack of stability took a toll on young Graham, making it hard for him to trust anyone. No stability, no love, just a series of unfamiliar faces and cold beds. Then came the adoption. For a brief moment, it seemed like things might finally change for the better. A glimmer of hope in his young life. The adoption brought a sense of belonging that he had never felt before. He started to believe that maybe, just maybe, he had found his forever home. Finally, a place to belong. He experienced moments of joy and happiness, moments that he had longed for all his life. But as with many stories of hope, there were dark clouds on the horizon. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The happiness was fleeting, and soon, Graham would face new challenges that would test his resilience and strength once again. Years passed. The abandoned child grew into a man, always carrying the weight of his past. The yearning for his birth mother never faded. Who was she? Why did she give him up? One day Graham stumbled upon a life-altering clue, his birth certificate. There it was, his mother's name, Sandra. Hope, like a phoenix, rose from the ashes of his past. He wouldn't be alone anymore. He would find her. Little did Graham know this single piece of paper would lead him down a path paved with deceit and heartbreak, a path that would test his very soul. Graham's search for Sandra led him to an online forum for adopted children. It was there he met her, Dion Marie Hannah. She was sympathetic, understanding, and claimed to be Sandra's half-sister, Graham's aunt. Dion weaved a tragic tale. Sandra, she claimed, was desperate to reconnect with Graham but was battling a debilitating illness. She couldn't travel, couldn't speak on the phone, but, Dion promised, she would facilitate their reunion. Hope, once a mere flicker, now blazed brightly in Graham's heart. He clung to Dion's every word, believing he was finally on the verge of meeting his mother. Looking back, the warning signs were there. But Graham, blinded by longing and hope, ignored them. Dion's stories were often inconsistent, her details shifting like sand dunes in the wind. She always had a reason for Sandra's absence. A sudden turn for the worse, a change in medication, excuses piled up, each more outlandish than the last. Yet Graham, desperate for a mother's love, chose to believe. Then came the financial requests. Sandra's medical bills were piling up, Dion claimed. Graham, his heart heavy with sympathy, opened his wallet, again and again. The DNA test truth revealed. It was a moment Graham had both anticipated and dreaded. For years he had clung to the hope that he would find a connection to his past, a link to the mother he had never known. The DNA test was supposed to be the key to unlocking that mystery, but instead it opened a Pandora's box of doubts and fears. Doubts, like cracks in a dam, began to appear in Graham's mind. Each new piece of information seemed to erode the foundation of the story he had been told. The more he learned, the less he felt he knew. It was as if the very ground beneath his feet was shifting, making it impossible to find solid footing. He loved Sandra, the mother he'd never met, but something wasn't right. The stories didn't add up, the timelines were off, and the people who were supposed to be his family felt like strangers. He found himself questioning everything he had ever believed about his origins. The photo he held, once a source of comfort, now seemed like a cruel joke. He demanded a DNA test, a simple procedure to confirm their relationship. It was supposed to be straightforward, a scientific method to put his mind at ease. But as he handed over the sample, a sense of foreboding washed over him. What if the results were not what he expected? What if the truth was more painful than the uncertainty? The results were a gut punch. The paper he held in his hands felt like a lead weight. His eyes scanned the words over and over, hoping he had misread them. But there it was, in black and white, undeniable and unchangeable. The truth he had sought was now a burden he had to bear. Graham and Dion were not related. The revelation hit him like a tidal wave, washing away the identity he had constructed for himself. Dion, the man he had thought was his brother, was a stranger. The bond he had felt, the connection he had cherished, was based on a lie. It was a betrayal of the deepest kind. The woman he thought was his aunt, his connection to his mother, was a fraud. She had woven a web of deceit, preying on his desperation and hope. Her stories, her reassurances were all part of an elaborate con. The trust he had placed in her was shattered, leaving him feeling foolish and used. A con artist who had preyed on his vulnerability, his yearning for family. She had seen in him an easy target, someone who wanted so desperately to belong that he would overlook the inconsistencies and red flags. Her manipulation was a cruel reminder of how easily hope can be twisted into a weapon. The world Graham had built around the hope of finding his mother crumbled around him. The dreams he had nurtured, the future he had envisioned, all lay in ruins. He felt as if he was standing in the midst of a demolished building, surrounded by the debris of his shattered illusions. He was left standing amidst the ruins, betrayed and alone. The journey he had embarked on with such hope had led him to a place of desolation. But even in his darkest moment, a small spark of resilience remained. He knew that he had to rebuild, to find a new path forward, even if it meant starting from scratch. The disappearance and its aftermath. With the truth exposed, Dion vanished. She disappeared as quickly as she had entered Graham's life, leaving behind a trail of shattered dreams and financial ruin. The phone calls stopped. The messages went unanswered. Dion Marie Hannah, the phantom aunt, was gone. Graham was left to pick up the pieces. He had been deeply deceived, manipulated by a woman who exploited his deepest desires for her own selfish gain. The emotional toll was devastating. But the deception had also taken a heavy financial toll, draining Graham's savings and pushing his business to the brink of collapse. The price of deception. In the world of business, trust is a currency more valuable than gold. When that trust is broken, the consequences can be devastating. This is the story of Graham, a man who learned this lesson the hard way. The collapse of Graham's business followed soon after. Once a thriving enterprise, it now stood as a hollow shell of its former self. The bustling office spaces were now empty, the phones silent, and the once busy corridors eerily quiet. He lost his life savings, every penny he had painstakingly saved over the years. The financial statements were a grim reminder of his losses, each negative balance a stab to his heart. The money he had worked so hard for, through long hours and tireless effort, was gone. The sweat and toil of his labor seemed wasted, as if all his hard work had been for nothing. The money he had foolishly given to Dion, a man he thought he could trust. Dion's promises had seemed so convincing, his plans so foolproof, but it was all a facade, a cruel deception that left Graham penniless. The stress, the betrayal, it all became too much. Graham found himself constantly on edge, his mind racing with thoughts of what could have been. The weight of his losses bore down on him, making it hard to think clearly. It all became too much. The once confident and optimistic man was now a shadow of his former self, consumed by regret and despair. He spent hours sitting alone, trying to make sense of the chaos that had become his life. His marriage, already strained by the ordeal, began to crumble. The arguments became more frequent, the silences more prolonged. The love that once bound them together was now overshadowed by the weight of their troubles. It crumbled under the weight of deceit and financial ruin. The final blow came when his wife handed him the divorce papers. The realization that his marriage was over hit him harder than any financial loss ever could. His wife, unable to cope with the transformed Graham, decided to leave. She packed her bags and walked out of the house, leaving behind a man she no longer recognized. The man she had married was gone, replaced by a broken shell. The shell of the man she had married left. Graham was alone again. The loneliness was suffocating, a constant reminder of his failures. He wandered the streets, lost in his thoughts, searching for a way to rebuild his shattered life. Abandoned, Not by a birth mother this time, but by the life he had built. The life he had worked so hard to create was now in ruins, a stark contrast to the dreams he once had. But by the life he had built, a life that was now nothing more than a collection of painful memories. The house he once called home was now just another asset to be sold, a casualty of his financial downfall. A life shattered by Dion's cruel deception. Graham's story is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the high price of deception and the fragile nature of trust. In the end, all he was left with were the lessons learned and the hope for a better tomorrow. A mother's love, denied. The search for his mother, the woman named Sandra, continues to this day. But the joy of the search, the hope that once fueled him, is gone, replaced by a gnawing emptiness, a constant reminder of what he has lost. Dion Marie Hannah robbed Graham of more than just money. She stole his hope, his trust, his belief in the good in people. She took away his chance to find his mother, to experience the joy of a family reunited. She took away his chance for a happy ending. Justice delayed, justice denied. Dion Marie Hannah is still out there, somewhere, free, living her life while Graham struggles to rebuild his. The authorities are searching, but she seems to have vanished without a trace. Will justice be served? Will Graham ever find closure? Only time will tell. One thing is certain though. Graham's story is a stark reminder of the devastating impact of deception, of the human capacity for cruelty, and the enduring power of hope, even in the face of unimaginable betrayal.